My name is Oleg, and today I'm going to show you how to install Acronis Cyber Protect instead of Symantec Endpoint Protection. So right now I've got a virtual workstation on which I've actually got Symantec installed, so the Symantec Endpoint Protection. So this is an unmanaged version of Symantec Endpoint Protection. So if you have a managed version, one thing that you might encounter is that you have a protection from uninstall. So there could be an uninstall password. In this case, you will need to use an uninstall policy on Symantec Endpoint Protection. But before we do an install, we actually want to minimize the amount of time that the workstation stays unprotected. So the first thing we're actually going to do is install the Acronis Cyber Protect agent. In order to do that, I'm going to go to cloud.acronis.com to download the protection agent. Use the credentials that I have. So the customer credentials that I have. And under these customer credentials, I can first of all download the agent, and then of course I can as well start protecting the machine. So there's an option just to go and protect. I'll actually show all options just to discuss them. So right now I have the option to download a specific agent. These are all online agents, just for Windows. So they are a small download initially, but they download during the installation process. What I actually recommend, especially if you're going to deploy on multiple machines or use that in an environment where there's low bandwidth, download the offline installer. So 64 and 32-bit, probably most systems nowadays are 64. So this is for both for Windows Server workstation, as well as it has support for all the Microsoft applications for SQL, Exchange, Active Directory. So once you download that one, you have most of the functionality already available in that download. I've actually pre-downloaded it, so I'm going to download that. I'm going to start up that. So here is my agent, and I'm going to just start the install. Again, Symantec is still working. I'm not removing it because we want to minimize the downtime of our anti-malware protection. And I'm waiting for that to start. So the initial installation, we would need to at least manually install one Acronis agent just by downloading it and installing it. You can also create an MSI installation if you plan to deploy this through GPOs or through some other means, deployment tools. This is option at the bottom. So create MST and MSI files for an attended installation. But for mass deployment, Acronis also has an option. Once you install at least one agent, it can act as a deployment proxy. And I also show that at the end of this demo. So you can customize some installation settings, decide what you're going to deploy. By defaults are okay. The only thing is to the Cyber Protection Monitor. This is an optional component. And if you don't want the end users actually to see that there's something functioning, there's some kind of backups running, you might want to disable this. If you're deploying this on a server, probably good to have. On workstations, optional. Again, depends on how skilled your end users are. So the other thing is, how do we register the agents? So for each customer we create credentials. So I can actually use these credentials right now, input them, or I'm actually logged into the console. So once I install that, I can just use a console to authenticate myself. And that's what I'm going to do. Or use a pre-generated registration token. I'm going to do done. Installation path going to keep as default. Also, you're going to use a default service account. And I'll go ahead and install that. Again, this offline installer contains everything, so it does not need to download anything during the process. At this stage, if you use the smaller online installers, the one that I showed you at the top, like this one or this one, at this stage, they will actually start downloading the needed components in order to deploy everything. So this can take much longer if you're using the online installer. And okay, let's wait for that for some time to finish. Okay, here we go. So we can register a machine. I'll click on register. Oh, actually, I got Microsoft Explorer here as a default browser. Oh, we can register for that as well if you use the credentials. Or if you don't want to do that, an optional is just show registration info. Copy the registration code, and I'll go here again, the same menu, add devices. Now go ahead, registration via code. Again, this is only available under the customer account. This won't be visible under the partner account. And once that is done, we should see our device appear in the list of the devices. Okay, here it is. Here's our desktop that we just installed. Obviously, it does not protect it in any way. There's no policy applied. At this stage, I can actually already apply a backup policy if we want. We've got some preset policies already. So for example, for backup, doing a basic backup, or if you've got your own third-party antivirus installed, or we can just apply a policy like this one that will include all the protection technologies that we have. I'm going actually not to apply anything right now because the goal right now is to use the protection policy and using the Acronis anti-malware and antivirus agent. So at the next stage, so now we've got two coexisting agents, the Acronis one and the Symantec one. We are actually able to see that. See, this is the Acronis one and the Acronis one and the Symantec one. So at this stage, we are going to uninstall endpoint protection. I'm going to do it the manual way. So I'm just going to go to add remove programs and just search for Symantec from there and uninstall it from there. There are other ways to uninstall it. No, actually, this was the wrong one. Programs and features. Okay, here's the Symantec Endpoint Protection. So this is the manual way to uninstall it. Keep in mind that you can also uninstall it through some kind of automation script. You might need to search for the correct register key for MSI exec because Symantec, for every version that it has, it generates a unique key. Also, Symantec has a clean wipe tool. So if you're having problems, for example, you've lost your endpoint protection manager and you don't have a password for it, so you cannot remove the uninstall policy, you can just request Symantec or search on their website for a clean wipe tool. That should actually allow you to remove even a managed agent as long as you have admin permissions, so it shouldn't be an issue. And the uninstall process is going to take some time. And as soon as it's uninstalled, I'm actually going to launch a protection technology. So I'm going to apply protection from Acronis and then reboot the system because removing endpoint protection does require for a system reboot. I do get this warning that there's this kind of floppy drive. So this is running on a virtual system and there's a virtual floppy. Not sure why it's created, but just a warning from Symantec, and closing it makes no difference as it again pops up every time. Just need to wait for this. As you can see, I'm getting warnings that both antivirus products that are still exist on my system are turned off. So before rebooting, I'm actually going to go back into my console and apply a protection policy so that, okay, this is still a warning. And I'm just going to do like apply a default template. Of course, I can create a completely new template, but this has basic settings doing an entire machine cloud backup from Monday to Friday at 11 p.m. and doing, of course, anti-malware scanning, URL filtering, and with all the functionality in anti-malware enabled, be that the anti-ransomware engine, real-time protection, scheduled scanning, as well as behavioral engine on. So let's just apply that policy. Okay, plan has been applied. And once a plan has been applied, we should see in a few seconds an update that this system is going to be protected. Okay, now it's on, so real-time antivirus protection on. So we had a minimum amount of downtime. After that, let's reboot that system. And in another browser window, I can log in under the same credentials. Again, one of the biggest advantages is that this console is reachable from anywhere across the world. So it's a cloud console, and naturally, I don't have to be logged in from a specific network, from a specific device, in order to monitor my device's status. Slightly different view here. I can change back to list view if I want, or just leave it like that. But I can check that my policy is applied. Good, it's applied. If I want to force something right now, if I want to force a scan, I can do a run now, or force a backup, I can also do a run now. By default, it will just run according to schedule. And that's it.